Welcome to my royal critic court, and let's talk about The King's Daughter. Hello, everyone. This is David Stark, the Sun Critic, talking to you about The King's Daughter, which is a movie. It's a new historical fiction drama that is based on a book that is loosely based on Louis XIV. It has fantasy elements. It has some other elements as well, but the underlying story is Louis XIV and some sort of daughter. And so, because of this, because of the film having such great sets and such a wonderful view of Versailles, I was inspired and I dressed up as Louis XIV for this review, or at least as close as I could get with what I had around. So, in any event, The King's Daughter is coming to theaters on January 21st, 2022. It stars Pierce Brosnan, Scodelario, Benjamin Walker, and Rachel Griffiths, and it's directed by McNamara. My hot take on the film is there's a lot that I really liked about it. I liked the cast. I liked the setting. The setting was fantastic. It was a beautiful setting, really well done. And I liked the ending, but there were a few things I didn't love, some things that kind of distracted me about the movie. So overall, I think it's a rental. It's only coming to theaters. So if you're comfortable going to theaters, I think you'll have a good time. But if you don't want to check it out in theaters, I would wait for it to come to VOD and digital, which I imagine it will. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the film, few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then go just briefly into the ending because the ending was one of the things I did like about this movie. So as you can imagine, there will be spoilers. If you don't want to know anything about the film, if you want to wait and experience it yourself, then turn this off now. But if you want to know more, then let's keep going. So in The King's Daughter, you have this mysterious girl, Marie, who grew up in a convent, and she is summoned by the king to court for some reason. We don't really know why. She goes to King Louis XIV's palace in Versailles, and she grew up in a convent. Now she's in court. As you can imagine, she's a little bit of a fish out of water, but she is a strong person. She has a bunch of hidden talents and a very strong personality. So she starts to kind of navigate this and grow into her own. And the movie is about her figuring out who she is, because she doesn't know. She doesn't know that she's the king's daughter. Spoilers. She doesn't know that she's the king's daughter until later. And so she's trying to figure out why the king summoned her, what she's supposed to do here, and also why she has some of these hidden talents that we find out about. And through this all, you have Pierce Brosnan in this just amazing getup. He like plays King Louis XIV. He plays like this royal person. He has this beautiful hair, much better hair than I have right now. He has this wonderful king persona, but then he has like that Pierce Brosnan charm. So you kind of imagine that he is, very charming and very fun to watch. And then Kaya, like I mentioned, her character is very strong-willed and very strong, and she just has this fierceness about her that was fun to see as well. So I'm kind of going into it already, so let's just go to the things I liked. The first thing I liked is the cast. Like I mentioned, I love Pierce Brosnan as King Louis XIV. He had this kind of like royal personality and this charm that just made him fun to watch. And then, like I said, Kaya Scodelario is fantastic as Marie. I really liked her. She is just a great actor, and she has this kind of inner strength that shines through just in her expressions and how she kind of portrays herself. So even though she's kind of out of her depth in this court, her character and her personality really are very strong-willed and able to manage it. The second thing I liked is the sets. I mean, this film looks like Versailles. It's set in Versailles. That's because it was actually filmed in Versailles. As I found out when I talked to McNamara, this movie was actually filmed in the Palace of Versailles. They had to go through some crazy logistical hoops to get it to work, but they were able to film a lot of the movie in the actual palace, which is amazing. And it contributes to the overall look of this film. This film looks grandiose. It looks beautiful. And that's because you're in this actual castle. And so I thought that really kind of hit it out of the park. The film had this really wonderful look, and also to complement that, it had these really great costumes that I also talked to McNamara about, that were designed specifically for the film. They had this kind of like old school feel, but also kind of more contemporary cuts. So it was an interesting kind of balance. It looked like things that you might have expected at court, but in like a cutting edge, high fashion type of court, which I think is what they were going for. So altogether, this film just feels really cool. Like it's a really cool place to be in. It's a really cool place to live in. And I really love just spending time in this environment. And the last thing I really liked is the ending. I mean, it's a little corny, but I did like that it kind of ratchets up the drama, really forced a very tough choice to be made, and really, kind of had all the characters going all out for this ending. And I'm going to go into that in a second. But first, I'm going to go into the things I didn't love, and then I'm going to go into the ending. So things I didn't love. Some of the CG it felt a little off. And there wasn't a ton of CG in this movie, but specifically the mermaid. The mermaid was played by Bingbing fan. I couldn't actually really tell it was her because they used, like, she was acting, but then they put like essentially CG all over her. So you couldn't really even tell it was her. I guess now that I know that, I didn't look it up before. Now that I know that, I can see it. But overall, the mermaid, it looked too CG. It looked too computer generated. It didn't look natural to me. And so that was really distracting, especially because there's some scenes where you're supposed to interact with the mermaid and there's supposed to be these touching moments. And they didn't hit for me like some of the other dramatic moments in the film did. The second thing I did not love is kind of the mermaid daughter connection, because Marie, the king's daughter, is drawn to this mermaid for some reason. And we don't really know why. It's never really established why. All we know is that in the convent, she was drawn to the ocean. She was drawn to, the freedom that it gave her. She would like to swim. She liked to be out there and away from the convent. So maybe that instilled in her a love of the ocean. Maybe that being around that environment helped her to kind of relate to the mermaids more. I don't know. It doesn't really explain it. And then when she starts to kind of connect with the mermaid, again, it doesn't really explain it. There's all you know is that she's kind of drawn to it, but you don't really know why. And I would have liked to see, I don't know, some other bit of backstory, like maybe the mermaid saved her one time when she swam too far, or I don't know, maybe a mermaid was her actual mother. That would have been a weird one, but hey, you know what? Weird things have happened. Look at the Little Mermaid. Mermaids apparently can become human and go on and interact with people. So maybe that could have been it. I just wanted something stronger of a connection rather than she just kind of felt drawn there, because she then goes kind of all out for this mermaid. Maybe because she's a good person, but I felt like there needed to be something a little bit stronger to then understand why she was risking everything for this mermaid. And the last thing I did not love is the action. There's not a ton of action in this movie, but at the end, there are a few action sequences that just did not feel that convincing. They weren't very fluid. The drama is a lot better, and thankfully, the majority of this film is drama. But the action itself just felt a little too choreographed for me. And again, like it was a tough situation. Like they were fighting over little precarious places and in this, tough to fight in location in a cave. So I can understand why it might not have been as fluid. But to me, when I was watching it, just felt like it was a little too slow and haughty and a little too choreographed. But going into the things I did like, and I'm going to just very briefly touch on the ending. So part of the kind of part of the intrigue in this film is that Louis XIV has bankrupted France. He's an extravagant person. He built Versailles. He spends on arts and entertainment and things like that. So he has essentially bankrupted France. So he needs an influx of cash, and one of the ways to do that is this duke who has recently passed away. His son is looking to kind of take over his father's estate, and so his son has a lot of money. There's a lot of money in his family estate, and so the king decides, well, you know what? I'm gonna get him and my daughter. Well, I imagine this is probably why he pulled the daughter from the convent, to have someone to be able to wed. I'm gonna have them marry, and they are going to then they're going to refill the royal coffers. They're going to save France. And this was one of the things I kind of liked about this movie. You do get this sense that the royals have to do things that maybe aren't necessarily what they want to do, but what they need to do for the good of France. Now, there's a lot of selfish motivations in some of these things, but you do get kind of an overall sense of like the nation has to, persevere above our own interests, which I thought was kind of a subtle thing that this movie kind of teaches. Marie has her own desires, her own interests, and she falls for someone who's helping in the castle, kind of I guess he's a merchant and a sailor who is hoping to take care of the mermaid. I think his name's Vez. I don't exactly remember. I can't read French, but he's played by Benjamin Walker. She falls for him, as you would imagine, because he is caring and attractive and, a sailor. So he's, seen the world. She falls pretty hard for him. But what happens eventually is she finds out that her father is going to kill this mermaid. He captured the mermaid in order to perform this ritual during the solar eclipse that would transfer the mermaid's life force into him. And so the idea is he's going to kill the mermaid. He's going to become young. He's going to survive and going to rule over France and be this kind of benevolent monarch for all time, because it's supposed to make him immortal, which seems pretty terrible. But again, like this movie introduces this idea of for the good of France. So Marie doesn't want this to happen, doesn't want the mermaid to die. She has this connection with the mermaid. And so she offers the king, like, if you let the mermaid go, I will marry this duke. I will save France. I will do it for France. And I really liked this line, because this is where some of the, the royal aspects of this movie come in. And I really liked it. The king basically says, like, even though he's talking to his daughter and she's offering kind of something that he was interested, he basically is like, you don't barter with me like a shopkeeper. I'm the king. And like, essentially what I say happens. So I thought that was an interesting line. Marie is understandably upset with this. So then she goes to go and try to save the mermaid. She gets arrested. She has to go through a little bit of subterfuge, but eventually she makes it down there. She makes it down to the mermaid. and her and I think it's Yves start to try to free the mermaid. And they have to raise the water level, kind of Free Willy style, and drain all the water in the fountains to raise this water level. Side note, I think those fountains might have been freshwater. Maybe they were saltwater. I don't know. But they had to get all that water down there so the mermaid could then jump out of this pen and survive. So while they're doing this, Dr. Labarth, played by Paul Schrader, comes down and wants to stop them because he wants this to succeed. He's kind of banking everything on the king performing this ritual and living forever. And so him and Yves get into a fight. And this is where that choreography, it wasn't that great, but you know what? They fight, they tussle. Eventually, Dr. Labarth shoots Yves and he like gets hurt and falls into the ocean, or falls into the pool. And so Marie and the doctor tangle some more, and eventually he gets tangled in some rope during some fighting, and she like throws the rope into essentially a water wheel. They don't actually show this, but the implication is that this doctor is now going to be crushed, which is a really painful way to go. But hey, you know what? He did some pretty bad stuff. So now what you have is you have her boyfriend in the pool dying or maybe dead, and the mermaid as well. But it's filling up, so the mermaid is able to not only jump out of the pool, but she takes the boyfriend and jumps out of the pool. But she doesn't heal him just yet. You'll find out why pretty soon. You find out earlier that mermaids can heal. They use this magic to heal, and that's part of what gives them this, eternal life. That's part of what the king was looking for. He wanted to get this magic to be able to heal himself and keep himself young forever. Oh, so the mermaid escapes, but Marie can't escape this way because she can't jump. She can't jump out of the water. So she runs up and jumps on a horse and tries to ride out to meet where the mermaid and her boyfriend are going to emerge. And so she's riding out and she's pursued by the king and some of his men. And this is an exciting scene. I really liked kind of the drama of this. It felt almost, it wasn't the same, but it felt kind of like Lord of the Rings, where she's trying to escape the Nazgûl to get out there. So she rides to the edge of this cliff, and the king meets her there too. And so while she's there, the king is trying to get her to stop, trying to get her to, not jump off, and also he's lining up a shot to kill the mermaid because he has to kill the mermaid during the eclipse, and the eclipse has already started. And this is the scene I really liked. Marie basically says, the choice is simple. You either kill the mermaid and save yourself, or spare the mermaid and save me. And then she jumps off the cliff. Essentially, the implication, right, is she's essentially going to kill herself. And if the king kills the mermaid to get the power, then she's going to be dead, and also her boyfriend will be dead too. Or if he doesn't kill her, the mermaid will heal her and she'll survive. So it's a really tough choice for the king. And eventually he, makes the right choice. He doesn't shoot the mermaid. She jumps off. The magic happens. She gets healed. Everyone's happy. And I really liked this line because then one of his confidants, who had started to dislike him because of the choices he was making, he turns to the king and he says, "You've always been a great king, and now you're a great man." And so I liked that scene. I kind of thought it should just end at that, but you do get a little bit after where you see Marie and her boyfriend searching for Atlantis. They're on a ship. They're kind of looking out for the mermaid and Atlantis, and eventually they seem to find it. Again, very heavy CG. Didn't love that. I didn't love that overall ending, but I guess it is happy. I kind of liked it just as a dramatic ending. Maybe Pierce Brosnan smiling, maybe Marie coming up and embracing him. That would have been a good way to end it. But you get to see a little bit more. You get to see that they end up looking for the mermaid again so she can reunite with her and also find this lost city of Atlantis. But that's The King's Daughter. It's coming to theaters on January 21st, 2022. Like I said, I think it's a rental. There's a lot that it's going for. And I really loved that it was set in Versailles. It looked amazing. I loved the cast. And the story was a fun story. It had some kind of ups and downs, but I really liked the ending. So if you want to check it out in theaters. If you're not comfortable, wait for it to go on demand or digital. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content comes straight to you. And check out my other content. I've got other movie reviews. I have an interview with Sean McNamara, the director of this film. I've got other interviews as well, unboxing videos and movie recommendations. Thank you.